My name's John Bartolomeo. Everybody calls me Johnny Bart. This is my YouTube channel. Hang out, get educated about prison without going to prison. So today's episode is the 7 deadly sins of prison. I was reminded of this story when my friend Danny Ecasella told me about it the other day, but he used to laugh all the time when I used to tell him. But, you know, prison by design is a pretty annoying place. Just think about it. It's hard to get any solitude anywhere in prison. It's almost impossible. I mean, you could take a walk out to the yard. Maybe if nobody's on the track, you get to walk the track alone. But there's usually always people no matter where you go. Even if you go to your cell in the higher security prisons, you can, you get some cell time by yourself, but you're always hearing noise outside. It's very seldom do you ever hear quiet, probably between the hours of about, I don't know, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the morning. You'll hear like as quiet as it's going to get, because you never hear complete silence in prison ever. And that's a common misconception I think that people have about me personally and people that have been in prison. Because everybody always, I tell people that I love to be alone. It's great. They go, yeah, because you've been so much time alone. That's why you like to be alone. Not at all. I've never been alone in prison. That's a big misconception. You're always around people. And when I tell people that, they're like, oh, really? And I'd be like, well, if you're sitting in a bar room, think about instead of the tables and the chairs there and the stools, if you just had beds. And you had people in the beds. That's prison. So it's a bar room with beds, because it's just noise all the time, people talking all the time. When you get to the higher securities, like I say, like on mediums and pens in the feds. Now, remember, I preface that all the time, that I've only had experience in the federal system in the United States of America, so that's all I know. But you only have cells in, the higher security institutions. And the lower security institutions is a dorm setting, which is horrible. But I came up with something because, when I talk about prison being annoying, just think like you're sitting there and you're next to somebody and like they're eating maybe a piece of cake and it gets annoying after a while. Somebody's like, and I do that. I clear my throat all the time. Listen, I'm not saying that only are other people annoying. I'm sure I do annoying shit too. That's why I kind of like to be alone. Nobody has to listen to me. I don't have to listen to them. That's why I like to be alone. So anything like from slurping coffee, some people slurp coffee, drive you up a wall. Some people walk in them flip-flops and they just don't know how to walk and they just scrape their, flip-flops. So after years, after years of this, I came up, me personally, and Danny Ecasella loves it when I tell him this, the 7 deadly sins of prison. It's whistle, bang, hum, sing, scrape, slurp, snore. I smoke, joke, take dope, swap, spit, talk shit, rub dice, tell lies, read the funnies, and collect the monies. But when it comes to the 7 deadly sins of prison, I don't fuck around. That was a little something that we came up with. That, the second part of it is something that somebody taught me from Chicago. Smoke, joke, take dope, swap shit, talk shit, rub dice, tell lies, read the funnies, and collect the monies. That was something that somebody else came up with. But when it comes to the 7 deadly sins of prison, I don't fuck around. That's something I just added in. But the 7 deadly sins of prison: whistle, bang, hum, sing, scrape, slurp, snore. Think about it. Whistle. I don't know about you. Like, you might like to hear somebody whistling. Listen, completely acceptable. My father was a whistler, loved to whistle. I used to love to listen to him whistle. I used to say all the time, they're like, why are you so down on whistling? Because all the old timers said nobody ever whistles. And why don't people whistle in prison? Number one reason, because before, when the cops used to do a round, they used to whistle. So if you ever heard a whistle, that meant the cops were coming. That was the reason why. But it kind of went out of style a little bit, of course. Every generation does something different. So now people sometimes whistle in prison and they really don't know the significance of it. And I really loved Berlin camp because the code for when the cops were coming was a whistle. So nobody else ever whistled. I thought it was the greatest thing in the whole world. If you heard a whistle, it was the cops. And if somebody whistled that was new there, you'd be like, yo, my man, don't be whistling. That means the cops are coming. Because somebody would whistle like inadvertently, and you see people start running, scrambling, putting shit away. So I always thought that was kind of pretty cool about Berlin camp, was that the whistle meant the cops were coming. And whistling, I mean, I used to say all the time, if you're walking through the park on a Sunday afternoon, dip in the bushes with your girlfriend, you come out whistling, completely understandable, right? Great, amazing. Prison, no place for it. Because you have so many people in a concentrated area. I used to say, if you're doing any one of the 7 deadly sins of prison, whistle, bang, hum, sing, scrape, slurp, snore, you're getting in somebody's bid. People are trying to do a bid. People are trying to relax. Don't get in their bid. Whistling. There was one time when my boy DJ from Texas, he said, he was in the shoe. He was in the hole, right? 23-hour-a-day lockdown, mostly 24, right? And he said, this guy, 2 cells down, it's all he did was whistle. And he kept yelling down. But you can't get to people, obviously. I'm saying that's why you're locked up in segregation. So he was whistling. He just whistled up his tongue. He goes, listen, I didn't sleep. I was just so aggravated thinking he was going to whistle even when he wasn't. Because whistling's a pretty bad thing in prison. So that's why I put whistling as number 1 in the 7 deadly sins of prison. So after whistle was bang. People go like this. And you're outside somebody's cell banging on a trash can. People are trying to study. People are trying to read. People are trying to relax. All the way in somebody else's bid. Not cool, right? But people used to do it. I remember outside my cell one time, I was, studying for my college stuff and writing. And I was like, my man, check it out. I mean, I'm trying to concentrate. You're banging on a barrel out here. Take the barrel in your house. There's like little trash receptacles, big trash receptacles, actually. And it just get in your whole bid. Like you're trying to concentrate and all you hear is, it's like, my man, come on. Do a little better than that, So, whatever happens after that happens, right? But whistle, bang, hum. Hum. People walking around with their headphones in the block. Drive you insane. There's a cacophony of sounds in prison, but that one kind of stands out a little bit more when guys got their headphones on and they're singing the song, like they're Drake, right? But really what it sounds like when they got their headphones on and people are walking around going, yeah. Horrible, bro. And it will get right under your skin, get all the way up in your bid and, put your underwear in a bunch. So that was the 3rd sin. And now whistle had to be number 1. Whistling had to be the number 1 deadly sin of prison for me personally, because that's how much I hated it. And I was with the old timers all the time and they despised it. Anybody whistled, they'd be like, yo, my man, what are you doing? Ain't no whistling in prison. So I love that too because, and like I say, my father was a whistler. It was crazy. But when my father whistled, it was pretty cool. We were on the street. We weren't in Leavenworth Penitentiary. So it's whistle, bang, hum, sing, right? I know you think you should win American Idol, right? Me, not so much. But I don't want to hear you sing because it gets in my bid. I'm trying to do something else. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not jumping in your bid. Don't jump in mine. Singing, I got to listen to you. You're in a little block full of people. You're singing. And most of the time, that singing, like I said, is with headphones on. Brutality. You got 3 or 4 people doing that. Oh, man, listen. That's why I love to live alone. Precisely for that reason. I don't want to listen to nobody else. I've listened to people for 27 years. I ain't trying to listen no more. But the singing one was bad because a lot of times people are less talented than they think. Me, number 1. But I tried to never, ever, ever, ever do that because I hated it so much. I tried to never engage in any of these 7 deadly sins of prison. I'm sure I have, and I'm sure people can point them out. But sing was number 4. Whistle, bang, hum, sing, scrape. This used to kill a lot of people. The scraping of the flip-flops. You would come out of the shower. You lift your feet up, but no, people would scrape. One of the most annoying sounds in prison. And a lot of times in these low security institutions, it would be like pedophiles, because they got, for some reason, pedophiles always got slippers that are too big for them, glasses that are the chonoculars, then they wear the Reeboks, the Cho box we used to call them. But they always have, I don't know, I think they just do this. I don't know, maybe, I have no idea what the psychology is, but pedophiles always wear shower shoes, slippers, whatever they are, 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or who the hell knows how many sizes too big, and they scrape the shoes. They don't lift their feet up and walk like normal people. They scrape. And there was a lot of people that scraped their shower shoes, and it used to drive people crazy. Dudes would be like, yo, pick up your feet, man. Or dudes would be like, you don't know how to walk in them things? I mean, all I do is hear you. I don't even, I'm trying to do something else over here. We're playing cards. All I do is hear is you scrape around the unit. People used to get pretty aggravated about that because it's an annoying sound, man. Annoying sound. And, people, in the higher security institutions, not many people walked around in flip-flops. But when you got down to these lower security institutions, dudes used to go to the yard in their flip-flops, like unheard of. I would never do it. I was always have my sneakers on, tied up, because you never know what can happen, ever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, jail, that's number 1 rule, I never went so far as to walk to the shower in my boots. That was a common practice with a lot of people. But I lived good. I didn't have no debts. I wasn't in beefs with anybody, and if anybody ever, and I thought the theory was so crazy to go to the shower with boots, because somebody wanted you bad enough, they just wait till you got in the shower and put your shower shoes on and got you in the shower. And I did see that happen one time in Fairton. But anyway, the scraping of the shower shoes, scraping anything, like scraping, just like, pick it up. You're scraping up the trash can, pick up the trash can. Scraping a bag, just pick it up. Pick it up like a normal person and don't get into nobody else's bid. So let's get to number 6. Whistle, bang, hum, sing, scrape. The killer. Slurp. Used to kill Joey O'Kane. He used to hate it. He used to go like this. He used to go, somebody be slurping on the coffee next to him and be like, my man. Because you'd be sitting in the TV room, maybe watching the news, who knows? And here's a guy on the coffee. Every sip was like ear curdling, like it would just like debilitate you. Like, like, man, are you serious? Are you doing that on purpose? Are you like, is that the way you drink your coffee? You kidding me? What the hell? Nuts. So the slurping was pretty bad. Anything, drinking a Coke or drinking a coffee. The coffee was the best, though. Insanity. So the slurping was bad. Food, anything, like slurp. Like, yo, my man, come on. What the hell? Now, after slurp, which is bad enough, because it'll crawl all the way up your ear and, get all the way into give you the goosebumps on the back of your neck. You feel like just firing off on somebody for slurping right next to you while you're trying to watch the news. So whistle, bang, hum, sing, scrape, slurp. And I would say when you're trying to sleep at night, the number 1 killer, and you can't help it, snoring. If you ever got into a cell with a snorer, I was in a cell one time in Brooklyn on holdover with a 300-pound Russian bear. Like, literally the sheets might go. Brutality. Thank God Brooklyn wasn't a sentence institution. I was just there on holdover status. And I had just come from a serious investigation in Fort Dix. And I was just happy to be out of the hole. You know, sleepless nights were great just to be off investigation after a year in Fort Dix. So I counted my blessings to just have that as a problem and not, a federal indictment. So nonetheless, it was brutal. I remember even my boy Case, he's from Utah. We were in the hole in Lee County, and I never forget how the Lee County was structured. So Lee County had the beds right here, and then right next to the beds was a shower. So if you had the bottom bunk, and I let Case have the bottom bunk. He had the bottom bunk. He was older than me. Got the bottom bunk. I was cool on top. And I think he stuck. We had some issue in the chow hall when we had that beef in the chow hall in Lee County. And he stood up for me. And he went to bat for everybody. And it was a pleasure to give him the bottom bunk, right? But the worst mistake I ever made in my life, the structure of the cell was you had a wall here and the shower here. And in between that, he slept. Of course, that's where the bunk bed was. But the shower was like not metal. It was almost aluminum. I don't know sure if it was aluminum or not. But like the walls would move. Even if you hit it, you touched it, it would be like, you could move the walls actually. Like it would go because it was so flimsy, of course. Think about a jail shower. But when he got some steam and he snored, the reverberation off the aluminum or whatever it was in the wall, it was otherworldly. Like Snoring could be number one, because I remember seeing this commercial when I was a kid for these Western books, and it advertised these Western books, and it said, John Wesley Hardin, so mean, he once shot a man just for snoring. And if you remember this commercial, you're showing your age, right? But I thought about it. Really didn't even think about it too much. But then when I got to prison and I replayed that commercial in my mind, I started saying to myself, I don't think he was mean. I just think he wanted relief. And if I had a pistol, I'd probably shoot the 10 snoring bunkies that I had, And then, down the road, everybody makes noise when they sleep sometimes, right? Sometimes it's not snoring. Some people snore worse than others. Some people get into a deep sleep. Somebody, when they're on their back, we all know sometimes you snore. And I had the greatest comeback for a kid that said, man, you talk all this shit about snoring, Johnny, man. You were sawing some wood last night. And I was like, was I on my back? It's probably why I was on my back, And he was like, yeah, I don't know, man, but, you were sawing a little wood in there last night. Somebody that talks about that snoring shit all the time. I'd be like, all right, I'll take that. So the next day when I woke up, he gets out of bed, and I was like, yo, my man, check it out. I stayed up all last night, and I didn't snore not once. Like, I checked myself out and didn't snore. So I got to kind of call that, assessment you had into question. So we both started laughing, because was the comeback in prison. I stayed up all last night. I didn't snore. I checked myself out. I did a self-assessment. No snoring at all. But that was the joke. And I think everybody snored, but I don't know. It's why I love being alone. And I love, nothing better for me at night when I just hear silence. I don't even need I don't put my TV on. I just listen to the silence. I've never had it. Such an amazing, amazing thing for me. I love silence. And because, I searched for it for 27 years and seldom found it. So that's the 7 deadly sins of prison. Whistle, bang, hum, sing, scrape, slurp, snore. I smoke, joke, jump rope, take dopes, watch fit, talk shit, rub thighs, tell lies, read the funnies, and collect the monies. But when it comes to the 7 deadly sins of prison, I don't fuck around. And that's the episode. It's a short one, but a sweet one. Tell your friends to subscribe, share the channel. We got more stuff coming. Like, follow, all that stuff. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in.